Morning, guys. Thanks for coming to our 2025 stat review for the year. So first thing we have up here, this is our 2025 average interest rate. Always take these with a grain of salt. These are always going to be averages for all loan programs, all down payment types, all home prices, that kind of stuff. So we have to pull together a lot of information for this, but what you're seeing in blue is the average 30-year rate. And then below is green, the average 15-year rate. Obviously, you're always going to get a little bit of a boost on the 15-year rate. But you can see we're creeping down to the sixes. I think since this came out, we might have had a few loan programs dip to like 5.99 after the first of the year based on some announcements that came out. But we are seeing that trend settling down depending on which economist you ask. We had some pretty good estimates at the end of 2024 for what 25 would look like. And they were getting pretty tight. I think a couple of people, someone had guessed between 6.2 to 6.4. They got really granular. This year, most of the estimates came out and they were like, between 6 to 7. So they've hedged their bets a little bit this year. And as we have market volatility and political volatility, it's just going to cause those to dance around quite a bit. The uncertainty is going to prevent people from making, I think, really specific estimates for those. These are our Jackson County overview for the year. So you can see we did 1.39 billion in sales. That's versus 1.31 in 2024. So overall, we are still seeing an increase in activity. I think what's most telling here, and this is kind of the story of the end of the year that I think most people in the market have probably recognized. Nearly 4,600 in active listings versus nearly 4,300 total for 2024. Our total sold 2,938 versus 2,861. So we had in 25 a 7% increase in listings for the full year versus a 2 or 3% increase in sold for the year. What that means, we're seeing inventory tick up. We're seeing buyers get a little bit more options. We're seeing sellers are having to price a little bit more competitively. I think most buyers have seen this, and I think it's twofold. We all hoped and wished and dreamed we would see rates come down significantly in 2025. Obviously, that didn't happen. We have a backlog of sellers, people who have been ready to move, but because they probably bought or refinanced at 3 or 4%, they've been resistant to the move. And this is anecdotal, right? I don't have a survey that can prove this. My take is a lot of those sellers who've actually wanted to move for 2 or 3 years are finally pulling the trigger on it. And they're saying, you know what, rates aren't where we wanted them to be, but it's time for us to make a change based on whatever life circumstances they have. And that's leading buyers to having some more options. Buyers are having a little bit more leverage. Our rate of cancellation did go up this year. I don't view that as an inherent issue. It's not catastrophic. What it means is buyers are not feeling like we don't have a choice, we have to move forward with this. They're saying, you know what, we think we can find something different if we're not happy with this. Our inventory has been so low despite our active listings going up more than twice as much as our closed properties. We're still under the historic 6 months is what we consider a balanced market. We're still under 6 months in most cities and most price ranges, but we are seeing that slight correction. Another misnomer with this, here's just a visual representation of that inventory. You can see we had a slightly more robust summer than we did, but dropped off as we do in this winter pretty typically. What I think is telling about this are a lot of people will see home pricing and think prices are going down. As you can see, our solds was still up over last year. Prices are decelerating. Our year over year for Jackson County within the UGB as a whole, average price was up 1.6%. You can get more granular in different neighborhoods. 1 or 2% plus or minus, I consider that to be kind of flat, to be honest. That's not a drastic change in pricing or value. But prices aren't going down the way some people perceive. If your house was worth $500,000 last year and you listed it for $550,000, but then it sold for $525,000, the value of your home has not gone down. It has just gone up less than you expected. And we've seen price deceleration happening since COVID. Appreciation was so high during those years. You thought your house went up 16% year over year. It didn't go up 16% every following year, thank God, because no one could afford to live in Jackson County anymore. But we're seeing a slight correction. Sellers need to be a lot more cognizant of what the market's doing. They can't just throw a price out there and hope someone will show up, because buyers, A, have been stretched really thin by market uncertainty and by high rates and by prices continuing to creep up a little bit. But also they have other options now. So they're not going to just throw something out there and hope they get a house. They can be a little more particular. And then this is just an overall review. You can see the median monthly inventory is up. That follows the annual trend. Property sold, up. Those are numbers we already reviewed. Slight increase to the median cumulative days on market. This is within the UGB. 24 to 27, it's a 3-day difference. I don't think that's ruining anybody's life or making anybody's entire year. And Scott, do you want to go over any of our individual neighborhood pricing?
Yes. So for Jackson County, the pricing is dependent, obviously, on location, and we've seen a modest increase in prices. Countywide, as Mike mentioned, it's 1.6% increase. For a one-year change, what I find notable is that the two-year change actually is still over 9%. So when you look at home prices in a long-term view, the prices have increased, and so we've got a greater appreciation. Ashland prices are one of the places that actually saw a decrease in the median sales price, which is the middle. It's better than average. And as far as homes within the urban growth boundary, not a huge difference. There was an increase in the pricing for rural properties. New construction, I made a note on this, that the number of homes that were constructed in 2025 actually fell from 310 in Jackson County down to 244. That's a decent decrease in the number that were constructed. However, we are seeing a 5.8% increase in new construction pricing.
Okay, 2025 Josephine County overview. $453.27 million in overall residential sales. Under what we had in 2024. We didn't have a significant number of homes on the market, truly. 1922 total active listings, 1827 in 2024. So the active listings, we've had more listings. They're starting out high, they're adjusting, and that goes to what Mike was saying about price increases, homes going up or down in value. We have a lot of homes listing at higher prices and taking longer, and I think one of the last stats I saw was something like 51 days on the market. 1,032 total residential properties sold as compared to 1,052 in 2024. So things are a little slower in Josephine County. Yeah, and then we're seeing, like we look at the 2024 to 25 median monthly residential inventory, well, it does look like the inventory's up. Is it moving? Let's look at the total residential properties sold. Maybe not so much, not compared to last year. And then a median cumulative days on the market for existing home sales. So that's a little bit less than what I had thought. Is that 48? I'm having a hard time reading it there. 43? Okay. To 30. Yeah, homes are sitting on the market longer, and the prices are coming down either after a period of time or through negotiations at point of sale. Existing home median prices, to me, this is relatively minute, the numbers, the changes here. In Grants Pass, within the 97526 zip code, we've seen a slight drop, about $5,000, that's negligible. 97527, and that covers most of the UGB area, rural areas, up a little more, and this is again people I think also looking for that little bit more property, and there's a change in property taxes in some of these that if you have forest land, et cetera, you're gonna find that more in the rural side of things, and that's the 97527. Cave Junction is gone up a little bit, and again the homes in that particular area a little further out from the main drag, if you will, people looking for a really rural experience. There are some brand new homes out there, and so the numbers show better and they're more affordable, and people are looking that direction. And then existing homes within the UGB, then we get to the more specific rural. Rural has been climbing for years, and now we're seeing it drop back a little bit. new construction, which I find interesting. We don't have a lot of new construction going on, but affordability of product, when you're talking about the supply chain disruption, that was huge during COVID. Post-COVID, it's been up and down, and that really impacts new construction. So that's why we're seeing those numbers there. And in Josephine County, we just really don't have the numbers that we do in Jackson County. The other thing that we didn't mention here, and something that Scott brought up when we were talking, is manufactured homes. And in Josephine County, these have always been an extremely viable option for people looking for affordable housing. And what we've seen is, like during COVID, when homes were in high demand and short supply, even more so, you could not find a manufactured home. So now we've seen that people are still wanting to buy that affordable option, but the pricing has gone down because there's no longer that surge. So we've seen a pretty big increase in sales, but at lower prices. If we look at a 3-year median pricing, 2023 was $78,250, 2024 was $87,750, and then in 2025, we're looking at $66,525. So while demand is still strong, the supply of homes and also the age of homes is creating a price decrease. And then we also have an aging population that's moving on, and those homes are going on the market. So that's all I've got to say about that.
Thank you guys for coming today. Obviously, there's a ton more stats we could dive into. This is a solid overview of what we saw in both counties for 24 to 25. A ton of it's going to matter very specifically on the neighborhood, the price point, whether you're in or out of a more rural or urban area. Overall, I think what we're seeing is still slight price appreciation. That's been the trend for quite a while. We are seeing more options come on the market for buyers, which I think is positive. It's giving us a little bit of a reset for what a typical market might look like. I think we all realize what happened during and immediately post-COVID is not a normal trend. It kind of screwed up a lot of our trends. And what we're seeing now is getting back to what we probably would have expected of a more normal real estate cycle. And, you know, in my perspective, a stable market is the best market. We don't need prices going up or inventory going up 10, 15, 20% year over year, or going down 10 or 15 or 20%. Seeing a little bit of stability helps everyone understand what to expect and to be able to strategize moving forward as reasonably as they can.